You have a birthday party somewhere in your past. There's cake, there are balloons, someone is laughing just off camera. You've seen the photo 100 times. But here's the strange part. You don't actually remember it. You remember the photo. And the real answer for why is far stranger than simple forgetting. Think about your childhood for a second. Try to find your earliest memory. Go on. Most people land somewhere between the ages of 3 and 4. Some stretch back to 2 if they're being generous with themselves. But almost no one, no matter how sharp their memory is today, can pull up anything from age 1. Or 0. It's not that those years were boring. You were learning to walk, you were hearing language for the first time, you were falling in love with your parents' faces. And all of it is gone. Why would a brain delete its own origin story?
This isn't a flaw, it isn't damage. Scientists have a name for it, and it's older than you'd think. Sigmund Freud coined the term infantile amnesia over a century ago. And while much of Freud's work has been revised or abandoned since, this particular observation held up. Something really does wipe our earliest years clean. The mystery wasn't whether it happens, the mystery was why.
For decades, the leading guess was simple. Babies just don't have the brain hardware yet. And there's truth to that. The hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for stitching moments into long-term memories, is still under construction in infancy. New neurons are being born there at a rapid rate, and some researchers believed this constant construction site was bulldozing memories before they could set. But that explanation had a problem. Babies clearly do remember things. Ask any parent. A baby recognizes its mother's voice. A baby flinches at a sound linked to a previous scare. Memory is clearly happening. So if babies can remember short-term, why does none of it survive? This is where developmental psychologist Patricia Bauer's research becomes essential. Bauer, working extensively at Emory University, ran a series of studies tracking children's memories over time. She'd have toddlers learn simple action sequences, like putting a teddy bear to bed, then test how well they recalled those sequences weeks or months later. What she found was fascinating. Very young children could form memories. They could even hold on to them for a while. But those memories decayed far faster than an older child's or an adult's would. It wasn't that toddlers couldn't remember, it was that their memories had a shorter shelf life, fading before they ever got the chance to become part of a stable, lifelong archive.
So the brain isn't failing to record, it's failing to file.
Here's where it gets stranger, because filing, it turns out, isn't just a biological process, it's a social one. Psychologist Carol Peterson at Memorial University has spent years studying how children talk about their own memories, and her research points to something almost nobody expects. The way parents talk to their children about past events directly shapes how well those events get remembered later. Some parents use what researchers call an elaborative conversational style. They ask questions, they add detail. Remember when we went to the beach? What did we see? Do you remember the seagull that tried to steal your sandwich? Other parents use a more minimal style, briefly mentioning an event without expanding on it. Children raised with elaborative conversation styles consistently produce richer, more detailed, and earlier childhood memories than children raised with minimal styles. In other words, memory isn't just something that happens inside your skull, it's something that gets built through language, through being asked to retell your own life back to yourself again and again until the retelling becomes the memory. But this raises an uncomfortable question. If memory depends this heavily on language and conversation, what happens before a child can really talk? Cross-cultural psychologist Chi Wang has explored exactly this, comparing autobiographical memory across different cultures. Her research found that people from cultures with a strong emphasis on individual narrative and personal storytelling tend to report earlier and more detailed childhood memories than people from cultures that emphasize collective or relational identity over individual narrative. Culture doesn't just shape who you become, it shapes how far back you can even reach into your own past.
So here's the emerging picture. A baby's hippocampus is still growing, still turning over new neurons, making early storage unstable. On top of that biological limitation sits a second, more surprising layer. Memory needs language, and specifically, it needs narrative, the skill of turning a jumble of sensations into a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Before a child develops that narrative capacity, memories may form, but they have nowhere to be filed. There's no story yet for them to attach to. Without the story, they simply dissolve.
You didn't lose your first years because your brain was too weak. You lost them because you didn't yet have a way to tell yourself what was happening. And once you did develop that narrative voice, sometime around age 3 or 4, memories finally had a place to stick. This is why the birthday party photo feels like a memory, but isn't one. What actually happened is that over the years, you were told the story of that day enough times, you saw the photo enough times, that your brain built a plausible scene, and it feels identical to memory from the inside. Neuroscience shows that recalling a real memory and imagining a vivid scenario activates strikingly similar brain regions. Your brain isn't equipped with a perfect way to tell the difference between I remember this and I have been told this so many times it feels like I remember it. Which leads to something even more unsettling. If your earliest memories can be built rather than recalled, how much of your entire childhood is memory and how much is reconstruction? Psychologists have run experiments where they successfully implant entirely false childhood memories into adult participants simply by describing a fictional event with enough confident, specific detail. Participants didn't just believe the false event happened, many of them added their own imagined details on top of it, embellishing a memory of something that never occurred at all.
Here's the thing, though. This isn't a flaw in the design. It's the design. Memory was never meant to function like a video recorder, preserving perfect footage of your life. It was built to be useful, not accurate. It compresses, it edits, it fills gaps with plausible guesses. And in your earliest years, before you had the narrative tools to file anything permanently, your brain simply didn't bother. It let those years go, keeping instead a general sense of safety or unease or love without preserving the specific footage. This is why you can feel completely at ease around one person.
So when you look at that birthday photo again tonight, notice what's actually happening in your head. You are not retrieving a memory. You are performing a very convincing act of reconstruction, using a photograph, a family story, and a brain that is extremely good at filling in blanks and making them feel true. You don't remember that day. You remember being told about it. And somehow, that's the more honest version of your past than any memory could ever be.